Revenge is coming based on true story. The email arrived at exactly 3:33 a.m., jolting David Patterson awake with its notification chime. He fumbled for his phone, squinting at the bright screen in the darkness of his bedroom. The sender was listed as unknown, and the subject line made his blood run cold. I'm coming for you. You know what you did. David's hands trembled as he opened the email. Inside was a single photograph, an image from 15 years ago that he'd hoped would stay buried forever. The photo showed a car, wrapped around a telephone pole, the driver's side completely crushed. And in the corner of the image, barely visible in the shadows, was David himself, 19 years old, stumbling away from the scene. The accident that killed Michael Torres. The hit and run that David had never confessed to. Below the photo was a message in blood-red text. Revenge is coming. 15 years you've lived free. 15 days is all you have left. David's heart hammered in his chest. Who sent this? The police had ruled Michael's death an accident. Single vehicle crash. Driver under the influence. They'd never known about David's car sideswiping Michael's Honda. Never knew David had been racing Michael down that dark country road. Never knew David had been drinking too. David had left town for college the next week. Built a new life in Seattle, got married, had 2 kids. Became a successful architect. He'd buried that night. So deep, he'd almost convinced himself it hadn't happened. Almost. But someone knew. Someone had evidence. Someone wanted revenge. The next morning, David tried to convince himself it was a prank, maybe blackmail. He didn't tell his wife, Claire, about the email. What could he say? Honey, remember that successful career and perfect life we built? It's all based on me running away from a manslaughter. He went to work. Tried to focus on the hospital design project he was leading, but his mind kept returning to that email. Who could have sent it? Michael's family? An eyewitness David never knew existed? That evening, another email arrived, this time at 7:33 p.m. 14 days. I'm getting closer. Attached was a photo of David's house, taken that day from across the street. In the window, David could see himself at his desk, working on his laptop. Someone had been watching him. David stood up so fast his chair fell over. Claire looked up from the couch where she was helping their daughter with homework. David, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. I need to make a phone call. For work. He grabbed his coat and went outside, dialing the number for Seattle police. I need to report. I think I'm being stalked. Someone sending me threatening emails, taking pictures of my house. The officer who took his statement was professional but ultimately unhelpful. Without knowing who's sending them or what they want, there's not much we can do. Have you received any specific threats of violence? They said revenge is coming, that I have 15 days. Sir, has something happened that would make someone want revenge on you? David couldn't answer. Couldn't admit to the officer what he'd done. I don't know. Maybe a disgruntled client or something. Well, document everything. If it escalates, call us back. David knew the police couldn't help him. This was about that night 15 years ago. This was about Michael Torres. And if he told the police the whole truth, he'd lose everything, his career, his family, his freedom. The emails continued, one each day, always at either 3:33 a.m. or 7:33 p.m. The exact time of Michael's death, David realized with growing horror. And each email contained new evidence. Photos of David's car from 15 years ago, showing paint damage that matched Michael's vehicle. A witness statement from someone who'd seen 2 cars racing that night. Even traffic camera footage David didn't know existed. By day 7, David was barely sleeping. He'd lost 15 pounds. Claire was worried, insisting he see a doctor. His kids asked why Daddy looked so scared all the time. And the messages were getting more specific. 8 days. I'm in your neighborhood. 7 days. I watched you drop your kids at school. 6 days. I was in your house while you slept. That last one made David check every room, every closet, every shadow. He found nothing. But on his bathroom mirror, written in what looked like condensation, were the words, "You can't hide." On day 5, David hired a private investigator to find out who was sending the emails. The investigator traced them to various public Wi-Fi locations around Seattle, libraries, coffee shops, always empty by the time anyone could check. Whoever was doing this was smart, careful, and always one step ahead. On day 3, David broke down and told Claire everything. About the night of the accident, about running away, about the emails. She stared at him like she was seeing a stranger. 15 years, she whispered. 15 years you've been lying to me, living with this. I was 19. I panicked. I'm so sorry. Someone died, David. A person died, and you just left? David had no defense. Claire took the kids to her mother's house. Until this is resolved, she said coldly. David was alone in the house when day 0 arrived. The email came at 3:33 a.m. Time's up. Open your front door. David sat in his living room. Every light on, a baseball bat in his hands. His phone was on speaker with 911 dialed, his thumb hovering over the call button. I know you're reading this, the email continued. I know you're scared. Good. Michael was scared too. When your car hit him, when he was dying alone in that wreck, when he realized no one was coming to help. David's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, he whispered to the empty room. I'm so sorry. His doorbell rang. David jumped, gripping the bat tighter. Through the frosted glass of his front door, he could see a silhouette, a person standing on his porch. The doorbell rang again. I'm calling the police. David shouted. A voice came from outside. Male, young, calm. No, you're not, because you know what I'll tell them. Open the door, David. Face your past. With shaking hands, David unlocked and opened the door. A young man stood there, maybe 25, with dark hair and eyes that burned with intensity. He looked familiar in a way that made David's chest tighten. Do you know who I am? The young man asked. David studied him, and then it clicked. The resemblance to the photos he'd seen during his guilt-fueled internet searches about Michael Torres. You're Michael's son, little brother, Miguel Torres. I was 8 when Michael died. He was my hero, my best friend. And for 15 years, I've watched my mother cry herself to sleep, watched my father drink himself to death. All because you took Michael away and then disappeared. I'm sorry. Sorry. Miguel's voice cracked. You think sorry means anything? For 15 years I've been investigating. I tracked down witnesses, found camera footage, collected evidence. I know everything, David. Everything. And now you're going to face it. David's phone rang. He looked down. It was the Seattle police. Miguel smiled coldly. I called them, gave them all the evidence. They're on their way. You have 2 choices. Run again and spend your life looking over your shoulder, or stay and finally face what you did. Either way, you've lost everything. Your wife knows. Your kids will know. Your career's over. David heard sirens in the distance, getting closer. But here's the thing about revenge, Miguel continued. I thought I wanted you dead. Spent years fantasizing about it. But then I realized living with the guilt is worse than dying. You've been living with it for 15 years, and now everyone else will know too. That's the real revenge. The sirens were louder now, turning onto David Street. Why now? David asked, tears streaming down his face. Why wait 15 years? Because I wanted you to build something. I wanted you to have a family, a career, a life worth losing. I wanted taking it away from you, to actually mean something. Miguel's eyes were cold. Michael didn't get to build a life. He didn't get to get married or have kids. You stole that from him. Now I'm stealing it from you. Police cars pulled up in front of the house, lights flashing, illuminating everything in harsh blue and red. Miguel turned to leave, then paused. By the way, I was never going to hurt you. The emails, the photos, it was all psychological. I wanted you to feel what Michael felt that night. Trapped, scared, knowing the end was coming, and being powerless to stop it. As police officers approached, Miguel walked away, disappearing into the night. His revenge complete. David was arrested that morning. The evidence Miguel had collected was overwhelming. He was charged with vehicular manslaughter and leaving the scene of an accident, felonies that still carried weight even 15 years later. His trial made national news. Successful architect's dark secret. Claire filed for divorce. His children refused to speak to him. His career was destroyed. Who would hire an architect who'd been living a lie for 15 years? David was sentenced to 8 years in prison. But the real sentence was the knowledge that Miguel had been right. Living with the guilt, with the loss of everything he'd built, was far worse than any physical harm could have been. In prison, David finally did what he should have done 15 years ago. He wrote a letter to Michael Torres's family, apologizing, taking responsibility, accepting that forgiveness might never come. Miguel never responded to the letter. He'd said what he needed to say that night on David's porch. His revenge was complete not in David's punishment, but in David's fall from grace. From successful architect and family man to convicted felon, known forever as the man who ran from his sins. Sometimes revenge isn't about violence. Sometimes it's about patience, precision, and making someone lose everything they gained from their crimes. Miguel Torres had waited 15 years for his revenge, and when it came, it was absolute. As David sat in his cell, he understood. Revenge hadn't just been coming. It had arrived exactly when it was meant to, in exactly the form it needed to take. The ghost of Michael Torres was finally at rest. The question was whether David Patterson ever would be.